So here's the thing, this video is pretty much like a history lesson, a breakdown, and an explanation to what 2-click, 2-action button mode was over here in Oracle, and then that of 3-button. Now, most of the time, especially if you do log into the game, especially during like I think episode 5, I don't remember when they added 3-button, but from there on out, 3-button was kind of the default go-to. And I think over there in Global, 3-button was the default sort of setup that was allowed, or it asked you, especially when you started doing tutorials and you logged into the game, if you wanted 2-button or 3-button. Most people would do 3. And if they did try out 2, most likely they have gone to 3 right after trying it out. Now, I played way back then in the beginning, around like 2014. And in 2014, 3-button wasn't a thing. So I was accustomed and I'm used to 2-button. Guess what? After I did that, most of my time in Oracle, even when New Genesis was coming around the corner, even at the end of Oracle when they wrapped up episode 6, I'm still using 2-button. And I'm still playing 2-button every time I play Oracle. Now, I will make a separate video where I will convert the stuff into 3-button or whatever I'm doing in New Genesis over here in Oracle. But yeah, pretty much, just a heads up, if you watch any of my videos and all that, note that it's not at my highest sort of potential in terms of my gameplay and my fighting, just because I limited myself with 2-button. And you might be saying, more, why didn't you swap? Especially with how it looks like you're already accustomed to 3-button over there in New Genesis. It's just because I was stubborn and I wanted to stick with 2-button. So yeah, the entire gist of this video, it will break down on 2-button if you're familiar with it though and you don't need explanation. Pretty much the other thing is, I was using this the entire time. Every video that I done, every gameplay, every stream that I did for Oracle, it was with 2-button. I did try out 3-button, but I decided to stubbornly stick with 2-button. And that is pretty much it. There will be a future video later down the line where I will use, once again, the New Genesis setup I have, the 3-button mode over here in Oracle. But for now, that's it. The rest of this video is to kind of explain and break down on the 2-button, 3-button. So if you want to see a certain point, look in the description for that. And there will be, once again, and once I get that video out, I will put a link to that, me trying 3-button over here in Oracle. And see how much of a change it is from that of my 2-button to 3-button. Now, once again, if you log into the game, they will ask if you want 2-button or 3-button, especially if you're new. Or you're using a new character and you're going through the tutorial stuff. But over here, you can go to the options, you go to control settings, and then you should see the action type select. Now, for me, I have 2-button on. As you can see, it's default. Once again, 2-button was the main method, especially during episode 1 through... I know it was especially 1 through 3, but I don't remember if they started to implement it in 4 or it was added in 5. But I was used to this. Now, what is it like? So, some of the classes are obvious in terms of doing it. Most of the times, especially if it's like a certain class. Let's say, for example, you're playing with Melee. Melee, as you can see, there's only 2 buttons down there, and I am zooming in on it. So, I'm going to be doing a bunch of normal attacks, and you can see that the icon on the right will change from the stabby looking point to like the slashing one and then an X one. So I'm just using normal attack to swap between these different palettes. Now if I want to, I could use the right action instead, use the photon action, and you can see that I'm going between the different options. Now, if I decide to, let's say, as you can see, it's going forward with what I already set up. If I decide to do like a normal attack right now, you can see that you saw the X slashing. Actually, no. Okay, it doesn't revert back to itself. I thought it did. Actually, no, it did it right there. So, the photon action that I have is the stabby one, but if you don't do it in time and use that photon action that popped up, which is the slashing down motion photon action, you can see it revert back to the stabby one. if I make sure that I continuously do something action-wise against something, you can see that it goes into an X photon action instead. And just to show it in my setup, pretty much I have 3 of these photon actions next to each other. So I have the rose one, I cannot pronounce this for the life of me, this is in German, and that's in German too. So I have stabby looking one, slashing down one, and the X one. So I have those 3 set up. And once again, to go between them, you just need to do either your normal attack or photon action to actually swap between them. And if you don't do it in time, it will revert back to the first photon action. For example, this one, you can see it was a cross one, but I didn't do anything and it goes back to the stabby motion. Now, there are other options within your settings where you can actually do some things. For example, for the rifle, as you can see that if I shoot with a normal attack or use the photon action over here, it's not swapping unlike that of the melee weapon. But if I hit a shift button, you can see that there's different icons. It's not the normal attack button or the rifle button in that certain diamond looking shape icon. It is pretty much 2 different actions. One of them is pretty much me tossing something and shooting at it, and then the other one is me shooting a spread shot. Granted that with phantom rifle there's a bit more to it, especially if you do stuff in a certain combination. But as you can see, I only have literally 2 buttons, 2 actions on my palette. In terms of the setup, I'll show you guys over here. Pretty much there's 4 buttons over here. The rifle action, the normal attack. That should be normal attack. I don't know why it's not popping up the little pop-up. And then the 2 photon actions that I have. And once again, there's a setting where you can actually make sure that you can either hold so you can swap between the palette or the weapon actions, or you can just click it and it'll stay on the one that you have. So what will happen if I decide to swap to 3 button mode? 3 button mode. So if I hit 3, I'm gonna save and exit. You're gonna see that it is different. Note that it depends on your setup, it depends on your key bindings. But what I could do is, for example, instead of just having that, I could put my rifle action over there. I can put, that's for TMGs. I can put this over there. I can do this. And I can do this. And then for this one, I can just do that. And then maybe something like that. So as you can see, down at that palette, I have three buttons to toy around with. I have the normal attack. I have the rifle action, pretty much it's still my left mouse button, my right mouse button. And then the third one, if I click on the mouse, it will use that photon action that I assign. Now, if I hit the shift button, it pretty much still has the normal action because that's what I set up on the palette. But there's 2 different photon actions, as you can see. There's this one that I'm using with the right click. It is different from this one where I was just twirling around. And then there's this one where it's me spreading out if I click on the middle mouse key. So it just gives you more to literally toy around with. Once again, you could actually input these sort of things over here in your, I think you could do it over here in your key bindings, unless it's not as thorough and detailed, unlike that of New Genesis. But that's the key difference over here in terms of your I think it's over here. It's somewhere around here where you can actually like customize that action stuff. I'll go back to 2. But yeah, pretty much that is the basic rundown about 2-click and 3. But 2 button and 3 button. And New Genesis by default only has 3 button, unless they add something else later down the line. But it is 3 button compared to that of 2 button. How long is this video now? It's almost 10 minutes, so yeah, that is pretty much it with this video. 2-button, 3-button. And once again, just to kind of stress on it, I have been using 2-button, even with the 3-button being an option and people heavily advertising it. I decided to just stick with 2-button. Now, in terms of how I do certain things, especially with luster, I decided to use shortcut commands to actually swap between the different sort of palettes that I already have assigned, because it's a pain in the butt for me to try to actually scroll with the mouse to do it. It's easier for me to do it with a command. So I found other ways to still use 2-button, but still have alternative ways to actually swap and do a bunch of crazy stuff. But yeah, no, I've been using 2-button, so if you want to try to copy my style in Oracle, don't do it, because it's literally in 2-button format. Now, I am curious to see a grand difference of how I could complete things quickly if I am using 3 buttons instead of 2-button. I might make a more thorough video about that. But anyways, that is it for this video. I was hoping to conclude it with 10 minutes, but now it's going towards the 11-minute marker. Thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, put it down below. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.